Let's have some good discussion on gamification, player loyalty, and business sustainability. I have with me Krister Malm from Oddsium and Vasilii Gamov, as you just have heard from. I'm Alexis Wicen. I work with Unibo. We produce retention products for online operators, focused mainly on casino, but also sports betting soon.
If you are on the lookout for fresh opportunities to grow and want to boost your income, we've got something to offer you. Let's dive into a world of endless opportunities with Gamov. Gamov is a direct advertiser in the ever-evolving landscape of the gambling vertical. It stands out as a cutting-edge and swiftly expanding affiliate program promoting 3 unique gambling products: Cat Casino, Daddy, and Gamma, and on the 5th of December they have released a new brand, Kent. Gamov offers flexible and convenient working models including CPA, rev share, hybrid, and sub-partner. This ensures that you benefit from adaptable commissions without the burden of negative carry-over. The program stands out for its robust player retention strategies and continually expanding global presence, providing affiliates access to a growing player base in diverse geographical locations. During the collaboration with Gamov, you will receive quick support from personal managers who immediately assist with inquiries upon registration. Skyrocket your success. Discover Gamov now!
Krister, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Yep, my name is Krister. I'm the founder of Oddsium, which is an affiliate tech company. We are specialized in aggregation and very, very efficient in converting traffic. And of course, we gather data.
Thank you. My name is Vasilii, as I mentioned above. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at RichAds, which is a traffic source. We have about 40% of our traffic for iGaming and casino and betting companies. So we have big data in it all over the world. So we can consult and help you launch campaigns if needed.
Great, thank you. So, gamification, loyalty, business sustainability. The first thing what happens when the new market opens up in a regulatory way is that everyone jumps on marketing. We've seen it in case norm in Denmark, in Sweden, and the public catches back and thinks this is a little bit too much marketing maybe. So now that we move into another section, how should we get the players to stay around? Why should operators focus on loyalty?
Well, I mean, obviously we're all, I should sort of add a little bit to my background actually. I have worked a lot on the operator side, and prior to that I used to be in the computer games industry, which I think really is all about the gamification part. So I think that the key aspect here is obviously for the operators that are spending so much money on acquiring the users is to ensure that they retain them. And historically, at least in my previous experiences when I've been with the operators, is that most of the operators didn't used to think so much about working together from an acquisition and retention perspective. They were essentially two separate views of the customer. I think it all should intertwine. So from my perspective, the more aspects you can add to something to ensure that your customer stays on board is absolutely crucial and absolutely vital. And I can see that over the course of the last decade, we've seen significant improvements when it comes to these parts. But I think there's lots of room for improvement. And in particular when it comes to the gamification aspects, so much can be done with relatively easy and small means.
Yeah, to add something on the top of that, why should we do retention in the casinos in general? Because you use from the marketing side, because we use different traffic sources, and as I mentioned, the retention rate and the engagement when you use SEO or you use PPC traffic is quite high. So unfortunately, there are brands who doesn't care about retention. They just have a platform with games and that's it. So SEO and PPC may work there in a good way. But if you go further and if you want to scale, you're using Facebook campaigns, you're using Google UC campaigns, push native, pop unders, whatever. the retention there will be much lower, the engagement there will be much lower, and you need to do something on casino side to increase the conversion rates. And this is not only about landing pages and forms, which I mentioned about, this is also about gamification, loyalty programs, some activities for your customers and so on.
Great. It's something we can learn from, you mentioned you're from gaming as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of mobile games taking on the more route of gamification. I mean, we've seen in the European Commission, they've had loot boxes up. Is it gambling? Is it not gambling? Are there things we can learn from that and maybe move away from this whole deposit bonuses push or cashback push, or just pushing things that players probably don't really want to do?
I think so, for sure. I mean, one of the aspects that really sort of goes within the whole sort of acquisition / retention, the sort of the distance between the two, is I think that a lot of the operators are so focused on offering something upfront. You get these huge sign-up bonuses and you have all these kind of things, but you actually miss to sort of provide something to those that stay on. And there is the fine balance. Of course, you need to ensure that you don't sort of go overboard and encourage people to over gamble. But having some kind of system that really encourages people to stay on board, ideally even better, invite a friend, do all these things that you can do if you have a good platform and a good product. This will come kind of automatically to a certain extent. And without going sort of too much into detail, this is one of the things that we're looking at very much now when we go into new markets. How can we ensure that we keep people on our platform, and what can we do to encourage them to carry on doing this? And it goes into small things. It's minor encouragement that's really required, and we see that by offering small incentives, you can get them to take steps more and more towards exactly what you want them to do, whether it be inviting a friend, or whether it be placing another bet, or converting into casino, or whatever it might be. So I think that there's lots of stuff to be learned from other industries, not just the computer and video games industry as such, but generally speaking, looking at other industries. How do they entice people to stay on board, and doing so at a relatively low cost?
Yeah, I have something to add. For sure, you shouldn't be focused only on bonuses, only on pushing the client to make a deposit. So deposit $100 and get free spins or whatever. You should be focused on games which this client prefer. You should be focused on segmentation, so different games for different client groups. You should be focused on his betting activity, playing activity. Where he prefer to play, what he prefer to play, add new games for him, analyze his playing activity with artificial intelligence, why not? So this is the main way, not to push in just top up our casino, switch it to player experience, like the similar in usual games. It will work much better, and if we can mention, for example, Casuma or Risk has nice gamification with tournaments, with missions, with some activities which involve you in the product. So this is a good approach.
Okay, great. I mean, we've seen in regulation that there's a lot of limitations in regulation, and particularly here in Sweden, you can give a deposit bonus on the first, or any sort of bonus on the first deposit, and then you cannot give any bonus or any financial incentive directly related to the game. How do you, if you're, let's say you have your handcuffs on when it comes to that, how can you fight the unlicensed operators that are able to offer these things? And obviously in the past, before 2019, a lot of the VIPs in Sweden, for example, received a lot of things from the current Swedish licensee holders that they now cannot receive anymore. What can you do to keep the players staying in the Swedish regulation when they might feel that they should be rewarded for the amount that they gamble?
From an operator perspective, it's obviously a little bit harder. And I think herein lies a bit of a challenge, without a doubt. I think ultimately this should be down to the legislators to actually understand as well that if they want to see good channelization, they can't impose too heavy restrictions. With that said, I think there are lots of things one can do. One is, of course, generally speaking about cross-selling, and to do that, you need to analyze and understand your respective customers. What is it that they do? What is it that they like? You know, what particular times of day or week are they normally using your product? And so on. And these things combined can, of course, give you a rather good insight into what they do like. When you have that knowledge, it's a matter of applying it in practice and ensuring that you do entice the person to carry on doing what it is you want them to do. So, you know, it's not something we can probably give a very clear answer to, like in a 1 minute sentence or something like that. But there are methods, definitely, of understanding these patterns, and there are very good tools to help the operator, as well as, in my opinion, the extension of the operator, which is the affiliate, to work on this. And I think one of the key parts, generally speaking, to try to ensure that the affiliate arm of the industry works closer to the operator is really removing things like CPA. Get rid of that altogether. It's not something that encourages long-term business. That's one thing that I really want to underline from my perspective.
From one point of view, I can agree with you. From the operator side, I would say about CPA, get rid of it. But from the affiliate side, unfortunately, as I know, not like every affiliate think in the long term. Unfortunately, there are a lot of affiliates on the market who thinks in short-term periods, and they need this CPA to invest money, to bring huge volumes to operators, and so on. And if we come back to the beginning of this question about regulations and so on, for sure the industry will lose some part of players which are, I would say, bonus addicted players. Yeah, they will go unfortunately to black hat casinos, some offshore casinos, crypto casinos, and so on, unfortunately. But it will keep the local industry, I would say, clean, and it will be more about responsible gaming. It will be about caring about the customer, and we see these world trends not only in iGaming. I speak about like all industries. You should care about your customer, and that will bring you bigger lifetime value. So you should invest in it. Of course, unfortunately, many guys would like to earn money right here, right now, big amounts, but that is not how it works in the long term. For sure, I believe revenue share is much more profitable. I know that is so, but not for every affiliate, not for every business, and we should reinvent something new for them. For example, I know guys who stick to hybrid systems, like a little part of CPA to reinvest and another part on revenue share. So maybe this is the solution, because if we are talking about switching something off, we act like a regulator. Is it good? Some kinda, but I think we should find compromises to work with each other. So.
Great. So you both work very internationally. I mean, we saw your presentation here, Vasilii, that you have Bangladeshi casinos you work with. You, Krister, you with Oddsium just recently, and the Greece market. So you have a good experience with working with operators across the board in different markets. Do you see a big difference between the players in these markets and how they enjoy or what they expect to get when it comes to different loyalty programs or rewards and so on?
I think yes, to a certain degree, and also no, to a certain degree. This is kind of a vague answer to a question that simply isn't all that easy to answer. I think when I look at the Greek market and I compare the players that I find there versus those that we've seen, for example, here in Sweden before, we see that there are certain patterns that are very similar. For example, we look at conversion and we look at the number of bets placed in a day and so on. These things are rather similar, surprisingly similar, I would say. On average, we see that every new user, for example, they open 2 accounts in the first week of using our product. So we see that those bits work very similarly. On the other hand, we see that there is definitely a definite change or difference in interest when it comes to sports, which is to be expected. I wouldn't expect ice hockey, for example, to be particularly interesting for the Greek players. But we also see that there are other things that do trigger their interest, generally speaking, in Greece. For example, we see things like free bets. That attracts lots of people. It's also in line with what I was saying about CPA. I don't think it's a sustainable thing in the long term. It's a good call-in to get someone to start using your product or start using a particular operator. But of course, the operator wants that longevity. They want the user to keep on coming back. They want them to keep on betting. And I think therein lies the challenge in actually providing not only a product that is good, but actually having small bits and pieces that do entice the user to keep on coming back. And this can be anything really, from understanding the individual's behavior. So you have this kind of real-time analysis of seeing when are people betting, where are they betting. And understanding these bits has proven to us, at least, that when we use that data that we have, that insight, we do get them to carry on using the product very efficiently. And I know that a lot of operators, they aren't looking at those bits and pieces in particular. So they push notify something generic, for example. They don't individually adapt to the times or place when the user would normally be using the application or app that they have.
Yeah, I agree with it. And from my side, what I see is crucial difference between tier 1 countries and tier 3 countries. In tier 1 countries, most of players go to have fun in gaming, in gambling. Of course, unfortunately, there are some gaming addicted people for sure, but most of them are here to have fun. If we talk about tier 3 countries, unfortunately, there is a big population which I would say is poor right now, and they look for a lucky chance. So, and responsible gaming is much more important in those regions, because unfortunately a lot of people losing money, they are lost money, not just money for fun, yeah, lost money. So this is the main difference, and because of this difference, there are different approaches and different operators and different casinos and different affiliates. If we talk about tier 1 countries, there are like pretty good systems about retention, as I mentioned, some consumer and risk. There are some projects like, I don't remember the exact name, but something like Green Gaming in Mr. Green or something, where they analyze their player behavior. And there are another projects like VR casinos in Slots Millions or something, and people product owners in tier 1 countries invest in your activity, invest in your retention, invest in your product, in what we call user experience. And when we talk about tier 3 countries, like that, people there just create casinos to get money, let's be honest. Unfortunately, there are no good retention systems, as I know. In some regions, in some casino products there are, but there are a lot of casinos which are totally based only on bonuses, which are pushing you with bonuses. So the whole retention is about top up and get bonus. So this is the retention. So this is the main difference. And for sure there is a difference in, if we talk about marketing, in conversion rates, for sure between traffic sources, but if we can compare even the same traffic sources, I would say push, native, whatever, I think the conversion rate is higher in tier 1 countries, because people there are prepared for the product. They don't want to spend their last money, they just want to play fun. And in tier 3 countries, for example in Bangladesh, the conversion rate from registration to deposit is 1 to 40. So it's like a really little amount of conversion to a deposit. So these are like the main differences, I think.
Okay, in that Bangladesh then, is it how come they sign up so much then if only 1 out of 40 do a deposit? Is it because you're giving them some no deposit offers or similar to that?
Yes, they came for bonuses. They came for bonuses, and unfortunately, there is not only like poor population, but unfortunately a big part of it are uneducated. Well, uneducated in part of playing, in part of gaming, and they expect, oh, I saw like 100 free spins, I will get it for free without deposit. It can be not even a deposit bonus or no deposit bonus. They just see free spins, that means free, I register. So that's it. That's why the CR is very low also.
Okay, you both talked about that big data has been a big word in the last at least 10 years or 5 years at least. And a lot of companies are struggling with, well, they're not struggling with collecting the data so much as they are to use the data in a good way. I mean, a lot of operators, campaign or CRM systems are very manual. So segmentation or automated segmentation is in many cases non-existent. So what do you think the future will bring in terms of these areas when it comes to personalization and pushing the envelope in the future?
I'm a big advocate for it, obviously, and it's been one of the founding sort of parts of the company that I've built, has been just analyzing and being able to segment and structure and actually understand customer patterns. I think that is the key, and I think there's going to be a huge leap towards that, generally speaking, much actually thanks to AI. We've seen over the course, just over the last year or so, how AI has really improved, and it's become more publicly available and more easily used, generally speaking, from a development perspective as well. So I think that is going to have a very positive impact overall when it comes to understanding and really being able to segment quite easily. Of course, it's not just a matter of being able to do it, but it's also a matter of what do you do thereafter. You know, once you've been able to identify and categorize these users, how do you reach them? How do you entice them to carry on doing what it is that you want them to do? That's a different story, but I think even there AI might actually be able to help. We've used it extensively in our company from initially doing just core analysis of what our users have been doing, but of late we've started to use it to assist with coding as well. We realized we had really good and capable developers, of course, but they also want to be able to do things faster. And through the advent of AI's evolution over the last year in particular, we've been able to get it to even help us with coding quite drastically. So I think that's going to, overall, the AI part is going to help a lot when it comes to that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you about it. So AI will take definitely some part of the work, and I already see it in my day-to-day work. I optimized a lot of marketing processes from images to text widgets and so on. It saves me about 30 or even 50% of production time. If we talk about marketing, if we talk about casinos, for sure we already see the results of AI implementation when audience is divided into groups and each group get its recommended slot machines. When you even inside the slot machine you can get personal recommendations based on your behavior. So definitely AI is here on the scene, and it will take over a lot of things which were done manually before, or with lower, I would say, lower input maybe. So yeah, AI is the future for sure. Maybe not for every task, every solution, every casino and so on, but it's here. We should implement it.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, we use AI as well in many areas, whether it's graphical production, content production, or just assisting as a pair programmer. Really speeds up development for our people, and can really help in guiding them to do things in a better way. Let's go back to players and what the the difference between different players are? Would you say that, we talked before about players from different countries, would you say that players of different, say, VIP levels, or a big player in one country might be more similar to a big player in another country than they are to themselves or to other players in their own countries?
Yeah, thank you. That's a kind of complicated question because what countries would you like to compare? If you would like to compare United States and something like, I don't know, Nepal or Bhutan or whatever, for sure even high rollers there will have some differences, yeah? But in general, I think you can compare them by such factors as the amount of their deposits, bets, their preferences in slot machines, live casinos, I mean based on games you provide with them with. And here, as I see, tools are quite similar. As we discussed some AI tools and so on, you should also provide them with extra activities like tournaments, like offline events. I know it's quite popular, like offline presents, pizzas we discussed in Athens, or iPhones, smartphones, whatever. So yeah, I think they're quite similar, and you should invest in the categorization based on their amount of money and game preferences. That's it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think largely I agree with you. You know, from my perspective, what I've seen both from the operator side as well as from the affiliate side is that there are some similarities, of course, but generally speaking, you have VIPs, and VIPs can be rather, how shall I put it, unique in their way of doing things. And they, especially if you have people that are gambling for a lot of money, that could be sort of on the verge of addiction as well, you normally see that they are very touchy on very small things. So I mean, it could be that they had a losing streak, for example, with one operator. That means that for them, that operator means bad luck, so they're not going to do anything more with them. So from a general perspective, I don't think you can just say, okay, there is a similarity or dissimilarity between VIPs in different countries. They are unique.
Okay, well, we'll hope to see that maybe in Scandinavia VIPs are more similar, but I agree with you. Every VIP is unique, and they all have different reasons for playing. Some might have very similar reasons, but yeah, they have different ideas of which games are fun, which slot games are fun, and often they don't always know why they think a specific slot is fun and another one is. It often comes down to if they have had a big win on it, then it's right away a favorite slot. They fall into, if you understand how to win in a slot machine, then it often quickly picks up in the retention amongst players. So I was going to ask you about the future of, well, we've talked a lot about different regulations in Scandinavia as well, but do you think that, for example, the Swedish regulation will change in terms of loyalty?
I hope it will. I think there's room for, as we were hearing before, some kind of pan-European regulation. I think that would be probably the best in a lot of ways, as long as it's flexible enough to allow for local variations. That would be my answer to that.
I would agree about global regulation in European Union, but unfortunately I don't think that is possible at this stage, because it depends on many factors like culture, mentality, your average salaries in the country, game preferences, players, because we have Scandinavian countries, we have Western Europe, we have Eastern Europe, some on the south also, and people there are different, so for sure their behavior is different, and that means unfortunately you cannot regulate all of them with one law at this stage. Maybe in future it will change, let's see.
Well, I mean, EU is trying to do it in many other industries, so hopefully I agree with you that the whole idea behind EU would be to have one regulation, whether that's in gambling or whether that's in alcohol or any sort of other industry, really. I was going to bring up what do you think the affiliate's role in retention can be, and how can affiliate take part in keeping players coming back? I mean, we talked before that you want to get rid of CPAs, so obviously then rev share is something you want to push more.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing. I think affiliates, generally speaking, have been crucial for this industry to grow, and you know, to a large degree, that of course means that there's a lower risk for the operator. I do, however, think that the affiliates, generally speaking, have to sort of take a step up from just being that in-caller, so someone that just throws people in and then they have nothing more to do with it. So in my point of view, and it's also a fundamental part of why we're doing what we're doing, is that we want to really work very closely with the operator. And I think affiliates in general should be doing that. They should be sharing not only the rewards of bringing in a customer by getting a CPA, but actually having the long-term part of that and working on revenue share. Ultimately, what that would mean is that they would become more of a, not just an acquisition tool, but an actual retention tool as well. Now, the difficulty there, of course, lies in the fact that most affiliates have no clue as to who really those customers are. The way affiliates normally work is that they provide some content that attracts the user, and then they drive it away from their own environment over to the operator. I think as a model, that's fundamentally flawed, because the channel that has the ability to actually attract the user should ideally also retain that user. So it's a matter of integration and so on that I think is going to become more and more apparent that it's needed from the affiliate side to the operators. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I think so, but there is a huge space for cooperation here, because first of all, it depends on the traffic source. If you run campaigns with pop-unders, for example, you don't collect the data about your customers at all. So I don't know how you can there create additional value in retention, unfortunately, and that depends on the traffic source. But on the other hand, if you work with SEO or PPC traffic and you somehow collect information about your players on your website, with email lists, for example, or if you track them via applications and you can reach your customers in apps. For sure, you can make additional emailings, additional sending of push notifications, and so on. So if there is an opportunity, I think for sure an affiliate should be involved in it and increase its revenues. And I think there should be a compromise between a hybrid deal between CPA and revenue share, because a lot of affiliates still needs to invest this money. And if we talk about what we can do else, I think providers or operators should share more information and more insights. If they want affiliates to be more involved, share the information. It may be not like emails or something, it may be a common platform, CRM system or whatever, where you can additionally reach your customers and help with this retention or whatever. But I don't see such trends, unfortunately, on the market. So right now it totally depends on negotiations and what you agreed with your operator on. So that's it.
Can I? Yeah, I think this is exactly part of the problem, right? Because the operators, they're so cautious about sharing data. And I think when you look at what they have to gain by actually sharing, not all of it obviously, but parts of it. So for example, if you knew that you had acquired me as a customer to Alexis, in this case, Alexis would gain by sharing some data to you, saying that, okay, Krister has not been playing so and so much in the last week versus that of the one previous. Then you could actually, if you kind of knew me, you could start try to affect me as well to do more of would benefit from. And this here, I think, is how the affiliates should work ideally. But I agree. I mean, you have different kinds of affiliates, but those that are generally speaking good and those that are big are, to my understanding at least and my experience, the ones that are producing good content and have some understanding of what actually triggers the interest amongst the user. So therefore, I think that is going to have to evolve faster, and I think there should be APIs for these sort of things. I could also foresee that, I think from a regulatory perspective, there would be a huge upside to actually have one system for essentially all kind of gambling. So, all the operators, this is my kind of vision, but all the operators should connect to a state-owned system or state-controlled system where all the data is stored. So that would mean that they would all benefit from having that sort of huge pool of data. And of course the upside for that for the regulators, that they would be able to control lots of different things, including money laundering, including match fixing, etc., etc.
Okay, great. I wanted to talk about communities as well, to see, we've seen online bingo is a key thing that really ties people to coming back to playing online casino because they enjoy chatting in the chat group with everyone else that plays as well. Online poker has that chat functionality as well. We've seen now more and more in casino as well. Live spins, for example, Beyond Play. The Wheel Adventure has a functionality where players can look at the streamer, bet behind the streamer, or be part of the pot that the streamer is gambling with. How do you see these kind of communities or other kind of communities like forums, etc., being implemented on operators' sides to increase the longevity or retention of the players?
In kind of a nutshell, I think it's going to increase. Of course, this is something that is becoming more and more popular. And I think any kind of interaction where you can get more involved is going to increase general sort of interest. How exactly the operators are going to do it is kind of it's impossible to predict. I think that the obvious thing that they have to do though is look very much into the trends of what's going on, generally speaking, around the world when it comes to different medias that are being used and different forums. So I think that social interactivity part is going to become more and more important in a lot of different ways. It could be that if we're talking slot machines, for example, maybe you could gamble with friends somehow. When it comes to sports betting, it's obvious. I mean, you've had these in Sweden, at least. You have these pools where people in a workplace, they come together and they place bets on horses or whatever it might be. That I think is something that could quite easily be implemented on the online side of things too. And you could take turns. You could do all kinds of different fun things regarding that. So I think that is something, that social element is going to become more and more important for sure in our online industry.
Yeah, I agree. And even if we talk about generations and the differences between generations, this new one, Generation Z or something, they're totally socialized. So for sure they need to have communities, and probably it is also the reason why we see these casino streamers, casino influencers, which appears that there are even big brands who provide casino streaming services. So this is the first point. And the second point, I think, here is about player psychology. Because if you do something alone, like playing casino or whatever, you can your involvement can be less when whether you do it in a group, because you have other players who play with you, and most probably it will bring more retention and more bets for you for casino as an operator. Yeah. And on the other hand, I hope there will be also a place for responsible gaming. That means if you play in community, in connection with your friends, probably they will try to protect you from overplaying or from high bets, like bet on your house or your car or whatever, lost money on a bank account. So I think this is the future, and it will be implemented in the nearest time in many products.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen PokerStars, for example, have their home games for probably 5 years now or something. They've been running them, and fantasy sports have you can create groups with your friends, and everyone put in a little bit of money, and then you get this return every week or whenever every game is going. So I really think that, yeah, creating this recurring feature for players will make sure that they come back to your brand rather than going somewhere else. So, do you have anything else you want to add? I was going to ask about responsible gambling as well. We talked a lot about loyalty and rewarding loyalty and bonuses and etc. So maybe we should talk a little bit about how not to go overboard and how these loyalty systems may push players to do too much.
Yeah, I mean, of course, this is the balancing act that we've sort of been touching on several times. I think that, yes, the operators need to understand, they need to see where they should draw that balance and allow for at the same time, allowing for the individual's freedom. The other aspect when it comes to this, I want to get back to that sort of system that I'm kind of envisaging should come in place, because again, if we're talking responsible gambling, if we're talking all kinds of security for the individual, having a centralized system that the operators have to connect to would mean that everything would be way easier in that sense. Of course, we have Spelpaus, which is a good step in that direction. I think it's very limited, and it's not really anywhere near as good as it could be. But adding or creating such a system would definitely help the individuals. Furthermore, I think that, again, if we're talking about getting affiliates and other parts of the industry more involved in this, having that system in place would also help them. So, I mean, it just makes the overall approach to the football, it makes the overall situation for the industry easier, but it also ensures that in my mind, I believe that also channelization and other things would increase through that.
Looks like you completely covered the topic. As I mentioned before, you mentioned some system about responsible gaming, and some players on the market already have it. Like I mentioned, Mr. Green with Green playing on something. So I think mostly casino brands should implement it. I mean, legal operators and so on. We will not talk about offshore operators, what for, but legal ones should implement it. It will be good also for customer retention. Why not?
Do you as affiliates see that operators that have a stronger emphasis on protecting players, whether that's Mr. Green and the Green Gaming or other, do you see that they actually lead to higher revenues per player in the long term? If you're on share deals, of course.
It varies from operator because it's a new one, new feature. I see a little bit increase in LTV. But it's difficult to make like strong predictions about it because the coverage of this feature is not big. It's not like even half of the market. I suppose maybe 5% of the market have something like that. All the rest has this icon in the bottom, responsible gaming. Here is the website about it. So this is not like the technology. So right now, in general, I suppose no, but I hope it will in future.
After having talked to quite a few casino affiliates, in particular here in Sweden, that have suffered a lot since Spelpaus was introduced. They say that player value has dropped massively for them. And a lot of these guys are focusing now on, say, Finland, for example, due to the very high player value there. And I think that there's a risk, I want to come back to this again, I think there's a risk when you have CPA as kind of the prime way to attract casino customers in particular. Because what this means is that the casino affiliates that are really good, they essentially become like locusts. So they go from one place to another, wherever there's somewhere good to get lots of money quickly, then get out and move to the next one. And this is what I mean about it not being a sustainable part. I mean, it's quite understandable. These guys are making fortunes. You know, they're making lots of money by doing what they're doing. But it's not a responsible step for the industry. And I think that a lot of these affiliates that do this, they also work very much on a, you know, it's kind of irresponsive from them. It's not something that encourages trust in our industry. So that's why I keep saying that we should move away from CPA deals altogether, or at least revert to hybrid deals.
Yeah, I agree. I've always wanted to have a rev share deals when I was on the operator side, instead of having to take the risk of paying money up front and then hope that the affiliate is sending genuine traffic instead of trying to fraud you or something similar.
Yeah, I have something to add. I totally agree with you. When I was on the operator side, I had same feelings. But with these CPA deals, you can get much bigger volumes of traffic. So it's up to every operator what to choose. Rev share deals in long term, but less volume of traffic, or big volumes of traffic with CPA or hybrid deals. And in this case, for sure, you will need to have anti-fraud solutions, CRM systems with retention rates and so on. So it depends on the operator and on the system.
Yeah, definitely. Does anyone have any questions for us here? I think we're running out of time now, and we all probably want to go to the networking session. Okay, no questions. Thank you guys.